We are getting ready for our second look at Delmont here. This is Route 22 going east and west, and this is 66 going up this way, coming up from Greensburg. And here's Delmont. We'll come in just a little closer. And we're going to take this guy, put him down here, and we're going to parachute in. Hold on to your straps. We may bounce a little bit on landing. That wasn't too bad. All right. Here we are, more or less oriented north. North, just a little bit west. And we turn around and we look at this building right in the middle of Delmont. Would you believe that that building was built, none of it was flush with this building? It was built as a bank, but that didn't last long. Somebody wanted to put a gas station in there, so they moved it back so that they could put in some if you look here, you can see gas tanks. There's an old truck here, a snub-nosed old truck that is delivering gas from what's called Freedom Oil, which was in Greensburg. And they're servicing the tanks under here. This was probably the 30s. And prior to the days of the automobile, stagecoaches used to be a big item going through Delmont. And one of the places that the stagecoaches stopped at was this place over here, right across the street from the building that had been a gas station. That's that building now. It's still there. And we'll go up the street just a little bit. We can see things like the building that used to be the Oddfellows Hall. Right in here was the drugstore, Zimmerman's drugstore that we saw previously. This was Zimmerman's house, built in 1897. And right across the street, we see this place. That was an older house too. It had been there before 1850s, but in the early 1850s, McQuillican moved in there. He was a JP there for a good number of years. And we move on down the street. This place looks like it put together from a couple places. But in the ground floor here, there was one time a wheelwright and a saddler, a guy who made saddles. And it was built with a big door in the front. You could drive a stagecoach in, so you could fix a wagon or a stagecoach in there. Moving on down the street, we come to the Agway. We're a bit close to it. That building was there since at least 1893. It's been rehabbed a bit. Maybe I can show you another version of it. And that's the other version of it. That was earlier. Gem roller mills. They ground up or rolled wheat and oats in there to convert into, edible products like flour and meal. The Schusters ran that for many years. And right over here, which you can almost see, but you can't completely see it, this is the end of the mill. This was another hotel in town, Walton House or Walton Hotel. And we'll get a look at that right now. Present tense. When you go to look for it, it's simply not there. It was wiped out by 66 coming through there. And this part of it comes to an end right now. Okay, we are going to put this on automatic pilot while we say a few things. You can look at the pictures as they go by. At the beginning, when New Salem or Delmont first started out, it was a really important stagecoach stop. And that was really what promoted its life and its being. It was almost its raison d'etre, the thing that it was there for, because it was on a very important route. Its location was the last stop before Pittsburgh. It was like, where the people stopped for the night, and they knew that tomorrow they'd be in the big city, Pittsburgh. Well, it wasn't quite so big then. But the fact of it being an important stagecoach stop and having a good water source there was important for the horses, because you get into town and the horses had been pulling for mile after mile, and they were thirsty. And there was a nice water trough. The water trough in Delmont was a central feature. It had been built there by one of the early inhabitants, Hugh Bigham. He managed to figure out how to put wooden pipes from the big spring into the center of town for the water trough. And over the years, the water trough became not just a watering hole, but a kind of a symbol of the unity of the town in a way. And another kind of watering hole that Delmont became was the local taverns, because when people rode for mile after mile on these stagecoaches through the dust and cold and sometimes the heat in the summer, they got into a town for a stop. They wanted to go and get a drink of something and probably something to eat. And the local taverns became a source, as did the places that repaired the wagons and the stagecoaches. The place then, in a sense, was kind of bypassed when the railroad was built in the 1850s. But it was preserved and taken care of because other things happened around there. Not just farming, but the coal industry sprung up around Delmont. And by the 1970s, a movement came about to have the place designated a national landmark. It was designated as an historic district. Pittsburgh Street and Greensburg Street, the north and south routes going through. It was designated, put on the National Register of Historic Sites as an historic district. And that being said, I think I should shift to some other things here. This is the town in 1867. I'm enlarging it so I could point out a couple things. Every once in a while I run into something that surprises me. And I was surprised to find out that as early as 1867, there was a picture gallery in town, in Delmont. John Dorcaster was a photographer. And there was a place you could go and get pictures taken. Another thing up here was a tannery located right beside the overflow from the big spring. Tanneries needed a lot of water. Robert Shields settled there 1825 and took over a tannery, which he ran until 1870, when he was no longer a young man. This is the town directory, business directory. When you see the people who were doing something, here was Robert Shields, the tanner, also a currier and a farmer. A currier worked with leather, processing it. A farmer, he had a big farm right outside of town, and it's still there, known as the Shields Farm. And it is a public recreation area. And here's John Dorcaster, photographer and United States revenue collector. This is the town in 1867, and I abstracted this from the actual mapping of the town. This is only an abstract. I've removed a lot of the things that I didn't want to point out. I'm just showing you. This was Shields' tannery right here. This is the East and West Pittsburgh Street going through. This is the road coming up from Greensburg up here. And down here was a picture gallery, Mr. Dorcaster. And there's a lot of other stuff on here. But I think that's enough for right now. And we'll say so long until next time. Bye.